Hello everyone, this is Jerm. I don't really have a channel. This is my personal one. I want to create a cool channel with a cool name, but I don't have one, so for now this is just me. It struck me today as I was thinking about taking care of my hard drives that I might want to share my experience because it might help someone else out. So let me back up a little bit. I'm a big Twit fan. I listen to Twit TV, twit.tv. If you don't know that podcast network, check it out. It's really good. There's a lot of good content on there. It's run by Leo Laporte and some really cool people. There is one podcast named Security Now. It's very heady, but it's very cool. The guy who mainly runs it, along with Leo, is Steve Gibson, who is a very smart dude. But he puts out a piece of software that lets you help to maintain and fix hard drives that you have laying around in case they go belly up, or to keep them from going belly up. Now, I love this piece of software and I've used it in the past, but to be honest, I have not run this utility on my drives in a long time. So it's very low level. Let me give you a little bit of background about the application in case you don't know it. It's SpinRite, S-P-I-N-R-I-T-E. I'll probably put a link in with this video. But it runs in DOS. It's a very small program, very small image. It does some low-level analysis of the drive, works out the drive, writing and reading data so that it can identify bad parts of the drive, mark them as bad, and then just allow you to use the good parts of the drive. Or tell you if the drive is impending failure. It'll do its best to try and recover the data, but it'll tell you better replace this drive right away. So anyway, it's a really cool application that lets you maintain drives. I haven't used it in a while. I was a Windows developer for many years, switched to Mac. So I stopped buying Windows machines. Well, hard drives got bigger, but I didn't buy any new Windows machines. So at some point, the BIOS in the Windows PCs that I have over there in the part of my attic would not recognize the size of the drives that I have. So I used to just boot up SpinRite from a CD on a Windows PC and then hook up my drive using the SATA connection, and all was well and good. It would churn through the drives, it would fix them, it would maintain them. It was great. I had a constant cycle of drives that I was always checking. I always had one in reserve, and I was always running through my bank of drives. I've got this wide shot because, as you can see, I've got Drobos over here, and they're not all that happy. I've got two of them. One mirrors the other, just to be crazy redundant, because I actually lost a Drobo volume one time. Long other story, but it led me to buy another one. So you can tell I'm running out of space. Well, there are drives in here that have never been run on SpinRite. I also have right down here a 3 terabyte drive that I'm having trouble getting the Drobo to recognize. It always says that it's failing. Well, a lot of them are 2 terabytes in there. This is the 3 terabyte I'd like to put in there, and I want to run SpinRite on it. But none of the PCs I have will recognize it on boot because the BIOS just, I guess, isn't up to the spec to be able to recognize a 3 terabyte drive. It can't address that high, something, I don't know. But I've been waiting on Steve Gibson to put out a new version of SpinRite that is actually supposed to run on the Mac. And I think boot on the Mac with the crazy boot up startup process that I don't even know the terms for that a Mac has. But he's working on this thing called Squirrel, very cool authentication technology, which I think you should go check out if you're into that. But it's really keeping him from working on SpinRite. And I can't run SpinRite on my Mac, or I wasn't thinking that I could. Now, it struck me today as I was driving home. We all have these epiphanies of problems that we're trying to solve, and all of a sudden you have a eureka moment. Well, it struck me that I could probably kick up SpinRite on a VM. I know it'll run and access a drive via USB, though it can be a lot slower than a direct SATA connection. So I've tried to stay away from that. I've run SpinRite in Windows before in a window, accessing USB, a drive over USB port, and it took forever. SpinRite can take forever anyway. Well, I figure if I can make a USB connection work, any SpinRite is better than no SpinRite. So I thought today, why am I not kicking up a VM on a Mac, accessing a drive over USB, and just running SpinRite in the background? What you see over here on this top shelf is a Mac Mini that is like my home server. It's an old one. I think I got it in 2007, maybe late 2007 or 2008. So yeah, it's 2016, so it's pretty old, but it still does what I need. It has all these robos connected to it. It serves all my files. It's running Plex. It's a great machine for what I need it for. Why can't I hook up another USB drive, have it running a virtual machine, just churning out SpinRite and cycling through my drives again? Seems like that ought to work, right? Well, I'm going to try and go through the process, put in a video, which you're watching right now, so that you can follow along, and hopefully that'll help you be able to do this in the future. Hopefully I can get it working. If you're watching this, I did, because if not, I'm probably not going to post it. So, yeah, I'm going to start a screen capture my audio, talk you through the process, and we'll figure out how to run a VM on a Mac, running SpinRite, processing drives over USB. Wish me luck.
Okay, so what we have here is a screen sharing session to my Mac Mini that I showed you a few minutes ago. You know, you could probably see on those shelves that it's a headless machine. It's just connected to my network. So the only way for me to control it is through the network, but that works perfectly fine for my needs. I very rarely have to plug a monitor into that thing. So some time has passed for me in between when I recorded the video and now when I'm recording this, and that is because I thought I knew what I was doing, but I didn't. So I had to go do a little research, and I want to give a shout out to this guy JT. I found his blog, JT's Digs, who has a very good article that is simply called SpinRite on a Mac. Yes, we can. So I was having trouble mounting the drive properly to the VM and getting SpinRite to see it. But after reading this blog and then making a couple of little tweaks on my own, which I will go over with you, I was able to get it to work. So now I'm going to take you through the process so that you can do it yourself. But I highly recommend going to this guy's blog and reading through it. It has all of the steps that you need. And I'll just highlight the URL right there so that you can see it. And I'll also try and put a link into the description so you can get to it a little more easily. But to back up a little bit, this is what I got. VirtualBox 5.1.4. Just go to virtualbox.org, get the latest version that they have out there for you. It's a simple install. It mounts a DMG right here that gives you all of the information you need. There is a package that runs a relatively simple installation. Take all the defaults. I didn't have to change a thing. And then, I jumped a little ahead of myself, but that is the application that gets put into your applications folder for you to be able to configure your VMs. So as you can see, I already have one here. I'm just going to leave that one because that's the one that I worked through last night and had analyzing drives today. So now what I'm going to do is create a new one so that we can step through the process together. But first, what you guys are going to need to do is know how to organize your disk. This is part of where I had trouble. Let me get this thing out of the way for now. This is where I had trouble because originally I had the VM set up. I had SpinRite running, and at first it didn't even see the drive. Well, thanks to JT's Digs, I got it to see the drive, but the problem was, whatever virtual BIOS this VM is using to kick off the free DOS for the ISO that Steve Gibson provides, I guess it's not allowing you to address a very large hard drive. Mine's a 3 terabyte hard drive, and the top the top number of bytes that I was getting, I think it was 2.199 terabytes. So I knew I was missing some of the drive, and SpinRite also gave me an error saying, hey, this drive size doesn't match what's reported in the BIOS. There's obviously a mismatch here. You might want to go back to your BIOS and check it out to make sure that we can analyze this drive properly. It would actually analyze it at that point, but I could tell that something wasn't right and that it probably wasn't going to be able to analyze the whole drive. So I decided to turn it off and do a little research. What I decided to do once I got it mounted and it wouldn't read that drive was I figured, well, what if I can just split this thing up? As you can see right here, I've got partition 1, partition 2, partition 3. Very simple. I just carved this bad boy up into 3 separate partitions. And I figure even if I had a larger drive, I could continue to do that. If I had a 4 terabyte, I could do 4. If I had a 5 terabyte, I could do 5. But this allows this allows the VM and SpinRite to see 3 separate drives, virtual drives, instead of just the one. And that is what worked for me. So I had to go into disk utility here, as you can see. I had to set up each partition so they're equal size. I mean, I don't think I really had to do that. I could have made them different sizes if I wanted, but it just seemed to make sense to carve it up equally as well as I could. And so from there, I have these 3 different partitions. Now, another thing that is important that we have to pay attention to here is the device ID, the way that in your /dev folder on your Mac, the way that these devices will be mounted into the system. So you can see right here that this device is disk 6 S2. This one is S3, and this one is S4. That is important for some of the steps that JT provides. So right now, these drives are not mounted, which is another good thing that we need. We need to unmount the drives because you can't have the VM and the Mac both accessing and mounting the drive at the same time. It's either or. So if you go through these steps and you have 3 partitions, but they're mounted, you're going to need to unmount them before you can continue. And there are some steps in the process that keep them jumping back into the Mac and being mounted. You just have to keep unmounting them. So from here, I believe the next thing I need to do is open up my terminal. Let me reference JT's blogs real quick, or blog real quick. Oh, I'm already there. So step 5 in creating the raw disk. I believe we've already really gone through the first things that he says, which is installing VirtualBox, of course. He says to install FreeDOS, but he also talks about how if you have the SpinRite ISO, then you don't need to install FreeDOS, and I think that's a lot easier. So unless you want to install FreeDOS yourself and then work on getting an FTP server spun up and transferring the files you need, I say just find a Windows machine, run the SpinRite executable, and have it dump out an ISO that you can use. That's what I did, and it was super simple. So I connected the external hard drive, of course. We talked about the partitions. And this does not talk about the separate partitions that I did. As you can see, it just says to look for the disk identifier, disk 6. Well, that's originally what I did. I used disk 6. That was too large. The VM couldn't see it. So that's why I split it up. That's how I diverged from what JT did. Now, these are important steps right here. This is where we've got to use some command line tools, the VBox manage, to create a raw disk file. Now the file is going to be added to the virtual machine. I think it's basically a pointer back to the actual hardware and the actual, mounted drive on your system, but it's a way to link the VM to that physical hardware. So in the terminal, which I have here somewhere, here we go. You can see I was doing this earlier. Let me just expand it a little bit and create a little space. So I'm just going to go back into my history and show you what I ended up doing. So this is the command as it's copied out of the blog from JT with a couple of modifications. But first, actually I just remembered, I need to show you my working directory. So what you've got to do to be able to access this command line tool is get to where it is on disk. It's not put in the path. I guess probably you could extract it, put it in your path if you want to be able to use it from anywhere, but this is kind of a one-time operation, so I'm not sure that that's really necessary. So what you have to do is go to a command line, navigate to your applications directory, and the .app file that is in there is actually a directory. It's a bundle that you can dive into. So from here, I was able to go into contents, macOS, as you can see. Now remember, all these paths are case sensitive, so make sure you use the right case when you are changing directory to all of these, or to where you need to be, which I'm going to assume you know how to do, but if not, that's just a CD for a change directory command. I'm going to start typing AP and hit tab. It's going to give me applications. V is going to give, and tab is going to give me a VirtualBox app. C and then another tab is going to give me contents. M and another tab is going to give me Mac OS. So I change directory basically to exactly where I was. Okay, now that we are in the directory with command line utility, now we can go back to the command that I was showing you before. As I said, this is pretty much straight out of JT's blog. The only things that I changed are my path to where I want this file to be created. You can see that my username is Germ, just my nickname that people call me, and his was JT. I also renamed the changed the file name. So yeah, there's Germ. File name just to partition 1, because what I'm going to need, what's different than his, is I'm going to need 3 separate files. I need 3 separate pointers to 3 separate drives for the virtual machine. So I named this file the same thing I named the partition, just to keep it simple. And then the last thing that I had to change was this raw disk identifier. In JT's examples, he just says disk 6. Well, I added the S2 because back here, to remind you, in disk utility, my partition 1, as you can see, is device disk 6 S2. So this is going to create the file that is going to link to that disk. So all I have to do, you also see here that I'm using sudo at the beginning. I believe since I did this recently, it's not going to ask me for my password. But when I hit enter, oh, it is going to ask me for my password. So I have to authenticate. I guess there's a timeout on that. I'm going to give it my password. And if you don't have sudo privileges on your machine, then you're going to need to talk to somebody to help you do that, or to log in as a user that does have those administrative rights. I am running as a limited user just for security reasons, so I had to go in as my administrative account and add this user as a sudo user. Not going to go through the steps on how to do that right now because that would extend this video longer than I want it to be. But if you can run sudo, do so. You see that I was able to create a file, partition1.vmdk. So now I'm going to go back into my history. I'm going to do the same thing right here. You can see the only difference is partition 2 and disk 6 S3. So let's create that. And then we're going to go up to number 3, which is disk 6 S4. Okay, cool. So now we can see if I bring up a new Finder window and go to the desktop that I have these 3 virtual disk files, which is exactly what I want. So now that we have those, there's still a couple of commands that we have to run because the system doesn't have the correct rights to those files that it needs until we give it to it. The VirtualBox won't be able to read those files until we go in here and do a chmod. So chmod, shuma, I don't know. People pronounce it different ways. But you're also going to, this is from JT's blog too, so just go over there and grab it. Again, you're going to have to change some of the same things that it did in the original path, which is, your username. Mine is Germ. Yours will be different. To partition 1, which is this is the path to the file that we just created. So we've got to change the file rights on this to 777, which reach back in my memory. I can't remember what 777 is, but I think it's probably read, write, and execute. That's my guess. You can go look that up if you want. Just type in chmod 777 and you'll find a wealth of information about that. So I'm going to go ahead and change the rights on partition 1. Then I'm just going to type into N3. It's easier than going back in my history. It's so easy. So there. I've changed the rights on those files so that now VirtualBox will be able to access it. Now, the last thing that we have to do on the command line is do the same thing for those devices that we were talking about earlier, the disk 6 S2. Now, like I said, those live in your /dev directory. So copy again from JT, put it in, and change the disk, the device that you have. Again, we're doing chmod 777, so we're going to do disk 6 S2, S3, and S4. Okay, now we're done with the command line. We should have our files as we checked a minute ago. I'm going to double check in here in my disk utility that those partitions are not mounted. They're not, which is good, and need them not to be so that the virtual machine will be able to ask them or to access them. Yeah, I don't care about this because I'm not trying to change anything on the partition right now. So Let's scroll down and then minimize JT, I think, for now, because I'll walk you through these steps and you can see me do it. You can see we're pretty much at the end. So now that I am running VirtualBox Manager somewhere over here, here we go. I'm going to create a new virtual machine. So this one I'm going to call SpinRite Video. Sure, why not? We're going to change the type to other because we're just going to leave the version as DOS. We want this to be a deadly simple VM, nothing fancy. I'm going to use the recommended memory size. I did that earlier, didn't have any problems. I am not going to do this right now because I want to do it in the system settings so that I can run all three. If you want to try running through creating a virtual hard disk now, you can. It might let you link to one or all of those files. But since I did it a different way earlier, I'm going to repeat those steps so that this video is clean. So for now, not going to do anything. It's going to warn me that I need a hard disk, obviously. Also, if I created one now, it might want to boot from it. And I don't want that to happen. I want it to boot from my ISO. So I'm just going to be okay with this and say continue. So now we have a VM. Simple, right? I think what I'm going to do next. Now, before I started it, which gave me the option to link it to the ISO, but I don't really want to start it until I'm ready with my storage devices. Now, in here, we've got a virtual IDE controller, okay? Now, that is, that's what we want. And what I want to do here on the IDE controller is add a hard disk. I guess maybe these two buttons are the same. This lets me add an optical disk or a hard disk. We want to do hard disk, and I'm going to choose an existing disk because I've already created the file. We're going to go in and I'm going to pick partition 1, right? Pretty simple. Not sure why it is fixed side storage on raw disk. Well, I'm gonna hope that's okay for now. I'm going to pick a hard disk and I'm going to choose partition 2. I'm going to pick a hard disk and I'm going to choose partition 3. Okay, cool. So now we have our disk set up. Hopefully those inaccessible marks, let me go check disk utility. I want to make sure it didn't mount. It did not. Okay. So I'm not sure why it's inaccessible, but hopefully we'll be able to fix that pretty easily real quick here. So let's just push ahead. Now, let's go ahead and start this thing up. Failed to open a session for virtual machine SpinRite video because does not match the value stored in the media registry. I wonder if this is because I have another one that is pointing to those same devices. It might be. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go and look at the let's go and look at the one that I have right here, and let's go into storage. Oh, see, that has a problem now too. I wonder if I've messed myself up in creating 2 of these. I wonder if this one's going to be able to start. Nope. Okay. Well, then in that case, I think I might partially understand what's going wrong here. Before, I created additional files here. Now I'm pointing 2 VMs to the same files. Let me go in and see if I can remove these, because originally I added these from my desktop, and now those files are different because I just created new ones, right? So the original files, the original hard disk image files that I used for the original VM are right here. So it failed to open it. Well, that's just great. All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to remove this VM and delete all the files. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to restore the original partitions that I created to the desktop. I'm going to replace all the files there with the ones that I originally had. Okay, so now we're back to my one VM. And I'm going to have to go back in here and, oh, see, well, now we're good. Okay. Now they're all added and they're all not red anymore. So that's a good thing. Now, the only thing that I guess we haven't been through here yet is that I linked the ISO to this virtual machine originally. So let me go ahead without adding the drives and do that just so I can show it to you. That is totally not what I meant to do. But I'm going to go ahead and let that happen, and then we'll just go back to it. So from here, I'm going to create a new VM. SpinRite example. This will just be a temporary one, okay? We're going to go with other. We're going to leave it at DOS. We're going to continue, take all the defaults like we did before, and we're not going to create a virtual hard disk. It's going to warn us. We're going to continue just like we did before. And now straight off, I'm just going to start this guy. Let's just do it up here. Normal start. Now, obviously, it doesn't know how to start, right? Its host drive is like this virtual disk drive that nothing is attached to. So what I want to do is go to my SpinRite ISO, which I saved right off of my desktop in the SpinRite directory. Nope, I put it on my desktop. So here, SpinRite ISO. This is what was created straight out of the executable on Windows from Steve Gibson and SpinRite. I haven't done anything else to create this but say, click the button that said create the ISO. So they make it super, super simple. Very cool. Now that I've told it to use that ISO, I can tell it to start. And it will boot up into FreeDOS and boot up into SpinRite. Now, the difference between this VM and the other one, obviously, is the disks that I don't have added. So I'm just going to go ahead and power off this one because I don't really care about it, right? So we're going to kill that one, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove it because I don't even need it. This is the one that we care about because this is the one, as you can see here, that has the partitions 1, 2, and 3 on the primary and secondary virtual IDE. So I'm going to go into SpinRite and I'm going to start off, I'm just going to do level 2 because I'm not sure about this drive. I want to run through a level 2 just to see if there are any issues, and then afterwards I may go through a level 4 to do a deep scan of it, just to see if there are any read and write issues, because right now I'm just going to test the read. Now what I noticed earlier was this takes a little while for it to pick up the mass storage devices. I think that it takes a bit of time for it to figure out that it has 1, and now that I've split it up into 3, it takes 3 times as long. So you see, that wasn't too bad, but it did take a little bit of time. But now when I hit select drives partitions, it's beautiful because I have drive 0, 1, and 2. Now before, I think I might even have an example of this in here in my screenshots that I can show you. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, here it is. Great, cool. Let's open this bad boy up and you can see what I had before, which sent me on this path of research. Okay, here we go. So drive 0, you see partition 1. It says invalid partition for drive size. The partition exceeds the size of this drive as defined by the system's BIOS or BIOS extension. So that led me to believe that the BIOS just couldn't handle the size. But now, as you can see, here, it's all blue. It's got all the stats of the drives. We've got the correct number of bytes, 1 terabyte there. And then, yep, 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte, and pretty much 1 terabyte. Of course, it's not going to be exactly 1 terabyte. But it looks great. So now all I've got to do is hit the space bar. We're going to select drive 0, drive 1, drive 2. That basically gives SpinRite 3 different items that it's going to analyze. I'm going to hit enter, telling me what it's going to do. Hit enter again, and we are off to the races, because now it's selecting the drive for use. And in a second, you're going to see it start analyzing drive 0. And when that's done, it's going to go on to drive 1 and drive 2. And at that point, I will have gotten this VM running on a Mac through USB connection to scan this entire 3 terabyte drive. And now hopefully I'll be back up and running and be able to analyze all my drives like I need to, so I can be a good hard disk owner. And you should be too. If you're watching this, hopefully that's your goal as well. And I hope that this video has helped you. Let me know if you have any questions, if there's anything I missed or didn't cover. I will try to add it in the comments. And yep, here we go. Status display. We are analyzing now. As you can see, it's going to take a while, but that's okay. I'm just going to leave it sitting off to the side. I'll come check it every couple of days here on my Mac Mini, which I never shut down. I'll just minimize this bad boy and then come back to it when I need it. But for now, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to say goodbye to you. Thanks for watching, and I guess I'll talk to you later.